probably didn't imagine how big they would go.
No,
I thought,
definitely. I
let's
think it
make
was
let's
very,
but make a little bit of, maybe we could make a little bit of money on it.
yes, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, what I'm learning from the musicians is that we have this idea of like that people want to become musicians, but I think it's much more of a you're born to become a musician, and like you can't.
And
It's
kicking
like
and screaming, you
it's
don't
like
have
an
much of a choice.
exactly. It's like an art form. So you can't help but make music, and then some of that music, some of the music become extremely popular, and some just nobody ever hears it, or it's a small niche audience. But the core of the musician is still the same, that they can't help but
Yeah,
create.
this is
Yeah,
the only way forward.
and it's a similar thing with entrepreneurship, I
But
believe.
I recently read a thing about Jimi Hendrix where he uh, he was just, I think, honorably discharged, or uh,
Yeah.
and under good conditions left the military,
Hmm.
and he was given, was it $40? Maybe it was $400. I remember the four. I
Mm.
don't remember. But he had enough money to get back home, so he could, go restart his life, do the next thing, chapter. And then he got stuck somewhere, partied it up, ended up with no money. Was too
Yeah.
embarrassed to contact his family to tell them he doesn't have bus money to get home, and so asked someone for a guitar that he had sold to them earlier just to borrow it, and then became, the
Jimi
Jimi
Hendrix.
Hendrix. Johannes Brannas, a.k.a. Johannes Le Roux, or just Joe. Do you go by Joe Brannas?
Big Joe.
Big Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so welcome to the Dan Flow. The idea of this podcast is to have conversations with people, with real people, about their stories, their experiences. I believe there's something to be learned in terms of the insight, wisdom, knowledge from any person that you speak to. Of course, it's always fun to have people that I know are exceptionally interesting, like yourself. Uh, so, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here, and I completely agree with that statement. And yeah, look forward to see what we chat about today.
Yeah, I love it when people agree with statements I make.
Yeah, it's always a good way to to get a conversation flowing, right? You can agree and still disagree later.
Yeah, fair enough. So, I know you started off, I think you studied at UCT, but I know you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, sort of marketing background. If I get anything wrong, please stop
No,
me.
no
But
problem.
marketing background, and so one of the big things entrepreneurial that you did was Brannas on tap. And I think for the
Correct.
context of people who don't understand what Brannas signifies in the South African culture, Brannas means brandy and coke, and it's sort of a national thing that goes with braai, it goes with rugby,
Yes.
and typically that would be a double shot of brandy on ice with Coca-Cola, the way that Americans drink Jack and Coke, I think.
Correct. Yeah, we drink. South Africans drink over 30 million liters of it every year, and I don't think a lot of that is without Coca-Cola. So we definitely saw an opportunity there. And it actually started with oh, so should I go into the story of Brana's draft?
Please
Okay,
go
amazing.
straight for it.
Yeah, well, it actually started while I was studying at UCT. I was also bartending in Long Street, and one of the subjects that I took as an elective was marketing. I studied property investment, a BSc in property investment, which is a lot different to what I ended up doing. But that marketing course, I think, was maybe the first spark into the marketing world for me. And we had to come up with a business plan and a brand. And the original brand that I did for my sort of marketing thesis was called Clipdraft, with Clipdrift.
Clipdrift, which is
And
a brandy brand.
a brandy brand, one of the biggest brandy brands in
Clipdraft.
South Africa, Clipdraft. And then I kind of had this, yeah, so this idea. A lot of the times I have ideas over a prolonged period of time. So I have hundreds of ideas the whole time, but then the ones that I choose to take further are generally the ones that kind of come up more and more. So if something like continues to come up and it doesn't disappear over time, then I feel like there's something there.
So
So
it's a little bit, we were talking about musicians earlier, and you said, like, it's not something that someone chose. It's really just something that's they're driven by it. And an
yeah,
idea, in some ways, like the idea is persistent. It doesn't want to go away. So it keeps
Exactly.
on evolving and moving around, but it's not moving. Eventually, like, okay,
Yes.
fine. What do you want to say?
Exactly. I can maybe even like relate to something like a character for a storybook writer, or a certain melody for a musician. So ideas are something like that, that it's my way of being creative. I love talking about ideas, and so clip draft and Brandas draft is one of those ideas. I ended up doing the got best marks in marketing, but didn't do too well in my other subjects. Um, and I actually, I was studying property investment in 2008, just as the global property market started falling apart, with the bubble in America. So always kind of looked at it from a global scale, and it's always like studying was also a means to an end. I was never I was never a keen student. I'm much more real world orientated. I love learning, but not necessarily in a structured way. So when that happened, I decided, well, I'm gonna take a break from this property thing because it doesn't look like it's gonna lead to anywhere. So I dropped
Subprime
out.
mortgage
Yeah,
bubble person.
so there was the first step towards becoming, in our modern world, a proper entrepreneur. Because I always also had to be a dropout. So so I was a dropout. And yes, that led me to a friend of mine that started an advertising agency. My recent sort of interest in marketing came up. I also was doing a lot of events while I was a student. So I did events at the bars in Cape Town.
Like, just organize the event, the marketing of it, and just
Exactly. Like,
build a design and experience and execute
totally,
it.
totally. I always, I love the idea of thinking that, especially in a place like Cape Town, that's so fickle about like how they spend their time. If you can get people to come to you and pay an entrance fee for a concept that you came up with, I thought that was the ultimate sort of marketing challenge. So I did that a few times, and that caught. Through that, I got to know my friend that started the advertising agency, and I didn't decide to drop out. I just started spending more and more time at the agency and less time in class. So eventually,
You segued out of your
I
studies.
segued out of the study. So I wouldn't call it a pivot; it was a segue. But after a few years building the advertising agency, which was amazing experience, because you get to learn sort of the basics in starting a business and building a business, and you're basically practicing on other brands, right? So I learned a lot about the production industry, film production industry, um, marketing as a whole, business development, and so forth. And the business started going more into a production direction, and I'm more of a ideas guy, business sort of commercial guy. So I decided to start my first business, and that was Brannas Draft. And I mean, I literally built my first investment deck ever, um, which was 10 slides, and started pitching it to my friends. I think the original story was because nobody'd ever put Brandy and Coke on tap, right?
I mean, this is a deck that you designed without having actually built a prototype or tried it, or
So the two things actually went together. So what the prototype was the second part of the deck. So I was looking at YouTube videos on how to carbonate, like home brewing, right? Because craft beer was huge; it was expanding. Independent beverage was definitely like growing. So I
yeah.
knew there was an opportunity. And I literally went to go buy, took my credit card, maxed it out, bought a keg and a tap machine, and then took Coca Cola and KWV brandy, put it in the keg, put it in my bath full of ice, so to cool it down, and then carbonated, recarbonated, and had my friends over for like a drink, and basically said, "This is the idea." I've started pouring them brandy and cokes on tap, showed them the investment deck, and after that night, I had 5 investors, and I was like, "Oh shit! Now I have to do this, right?" And yeah, that's kind of that was the big leap in the start of my entrepreneurial journey, and that ended up being 15 years into the beverage industry, which I'm only recently basically getting out of.
And so you exited on eventually, right?
Yes.
So
So
you built the story, you built the brand, you made sure that the things worked and did what they had to. But you also, I know that you, like myself, as someone who really you're interested in stories, and
yeah.
I think that that's one of your most possibly your superpower in terms of marketing is that you really understand stories.
Yes, correct. And I have a specific idea. I think the word entrepreneur gets confused quite a lot. I think I'm the entrepreneur that likes to take something from 0 to 1, right? Like that's my superpower. So it's from literally nothing to idea to prototype, brand, launch, proof of concept. That's where I specialize. But then after
The
that,
initiator.
yeah, initiated, and the interesting thing is that's actually not a lot of people can do that. So I've started realizing that that's my superpower, and then my model, my own business model, has always been do 0 to 1, and raise capital also as part of that, and then have a clear path to exit. Where a lot of
And
people
hand it off to someone who likes to manage the day to day and who's going to take this the scaling to the next level and whatever
exactly
else.
like a strategic partner, we don't even necessarily say use the word exit. We rather use the word integrate, right? So like, how do I integrate this brand into an established um, business that already has scalable sales and distribution, production facilities, and so forth? Because now you're not just marketing one brand, you're actually part of a portfolio of brands. And then that's when, especially in the beverage industry or in FMCG, fast moving consumer products, that's actually when you start becoming profitable. Because it's almost impossible to make profit in that early stage where
You
you've got
just don't
one
have the
brand. You
distribution.
don't
You
have the
just
distribution, you don't have the scale, and you don't have the relationships with the big players and so forth. So with Brana's Draft, it works out quite well. We got KWV invested within the first year. They gave us that sort of scale. And then over time, I completely exited from that or integrated that brand. So it was amazing learning. And I was like, wow, this is easy. I should continue doing
maybe I
this.
should
Like,
keep doing this stuff.
exactly. And that kind of segued into the next brand, which obviously there's a lot of learnings from Brannas. So the alcohol industry was interesting, but it's super competitive. I also made something that was extremely local.
Is it a
Like
little bit is it a little bit gangster as well? I suppose
um,
like what I learn, the more I learn about various industries, the more I learn that invariably all of them become gangster.
yeah, I think it's more monopolized. Like you'll find the gangsters everywhere, and I'm sure there's a lot of under handling and excise not being paid and so forth. But the biggest challenge is actually competing in a monopolized category. So if you take like the five biggest beverage brands in the world, basically own I would say 90% of the beverages. So to be able to compete with them is almost impossible. That's why the model has always been to, instead of compete, we actually become an outsource innovation arm, right? Because the one thing that they
With
struggle
the aim
with,
to ultimately integrate.
yeah, then build something that they either love and want to integrate, or that harms them somehow and they want to buy and
And
integrate,
just
right?
either integrate or buy you so they can smother you. Which
Yeah,
like
exactly. And normally,
crib death.
yeah, well, normally we none of the brands. What I love is that every single brand that I've started and launched still exists, right? So I love that for it, because I don't have to be part of say a Brana draft now, still to enjoy that it's still in the world and it's still growing and there's
Your
still
child is
passion.
still out
Yes,
there doing
exactly.
its thing.
So I wouldn't necessarily say I like the idea of somebody buying it to squash it, but uh, if that's their prerogative, it's probably not my. It's not up to me. But yeah. So segued from Brana's draft, I actually took some of the cash I got from that deal and decided to go visit a friend of mine in the Netherlands. I thought, okay, cool. Let me go see what's happening in Europe. Maybe that'll get me thinking about a new idea in the alcohol space originally, right? And I spent a week in the Netherlands speaking to people, looking at the market. And at that time, this was 2016, the gin market was booming. Like craft gin was everywhere, especially in the Netherlands. Netherlands is actually the birthplace of gin. So people
I
think
didn't
it's
know that.
the UK, but it's actually Jenever from yeah from
Juniper.
from Juniper
Jenever.
Jenever, yeah, from the Netherlands, and they took it to the UK when they took over the UK, and that's why it became quite big there. But I went there. That was the one sort of trend that I saw. And then the other interesting thing that stuck with me is that people, when I asked them like, what are they drinking? What do they feel like drinking? Actually said they're trying to cut down alcohol use, right? And it was a pattern that came out quite a few times. So it was something that I found quite interesting. And at that time, this is before your sort of Heineken Zeros and your massive trend in alcohol-free drinks. And
Like, if someone doesn't drink alcohol, what are their choices?
exactly at that
They can
time,
have you know, they can have a candy soda essentially,
totally, or
or
water.
a glass of water, or tea,
Yeah,
or coffee, or an alcoholic beverage.
yeah. So why? So we started. I was saying, what is an alcoholic? What's a non-alcoholic adult drink? Right, not a non-alcoholic soda or kids drink. And took those two ideas, came back and came up with the idea to do a non-alcoholic gin and tonic, the world's first. And yeah, we launched the Duchess alcohol-free gin and tonic in 2016. Well, it was originally called Virgin Gin and Tonic, but I'll tell you a little bit about why we had to change it.
Virgin.
Virgin.
Virgin gin and tonic.
So it was called the Duchess Virgin Gin and Tonic, but we actually had to change that name when we took it to Europe because Virgin Enterprises sued us. So, which is another story. But so we had to change it to alcohol-free gin and tonic. It was the world's first. We won awards, all like sort of the InnoBev Awards, and in Prague that year. And yeah, it was just an instant success because I think what we realized was we had created something where the demand was bigger than the supply, right? So I think it wasn't, like you said,
Amazing.
there wasn't something there, and it wasn't a trend yet. It was just something that we kind of listened to the people on the ground level, and
Like,
then
and there's this gin trend, fancy gins, spice it with this and put little flowers and whatever else you want in there. But
exactly
there's also this non-alcoholic trend, and bring them together.
bring them together and build something. So yeah, I think we were in a way we were early, and that was amazing. So we ended up owning almost like the full alcohol-free adult drink market because it was our own new category.
Goodness.
I mean, to the point where we were pioneering literally the alcohol-free drinks shelf in a store. Now you'll walk into a Pick and Pay and a Checkers and a Spa retailer, and there'll be an alcohol-free drinks shelf. There wasn't anything like this. So our first challenge was like, where do we place this? Can't place it with the tonic waters. Can't place it with the gins. So we had to like work with retailers to build a whole category
Invent a new
to
space.
exactly. So there was a advantage in being first because we own the whole market, but then the disadvantage is that you have to basically like build a whole
There's
new
not a wheel
category.
to reinvent. It
No,
has to be invented
exactly.
new.
Yeah, so it was incredible. I mean, those first years, and we really tried to build it also grassroots up. We did a lot of neighbor goods markets, and so a lot of the first time people tasted it, they also tasted the product in a nice environment, not necessarily in a retail store.
Again, the experience, building the story.
Exactly, and that worked out really well for us. And being at the neighborhood markets and being from Cape Town, we got a lot of people from around the world contacting us and said, "Wow, this is this incredible product that we had in Cape Town. Can I get it in Australia or the Netherlands or Belgium or the UK or America, right?" So that started us thinking, well, we're onto something here. And we started speaking to retailers all over the world. And yeah, over the next 5 years, we took the Duchess to 5 countries around the world. We had over 4,000 listings with outlets, some of the sort of biggest retailers around the world in these areas. And yeah, it was a really, really exciting journey. I mean, for a young entrepreneur to have the opportunity for its brand to not only be a success in the local market, but actually scale and be something that people all over the world love was really quite an amazing experience. And I think that solidified my sort of self-belief and confidence, and also yeah, just gave me the experience that I needed to like continue this journey as an entrepreneur, and knew that once you go there,
I'm a real entrepreneur.
I'm a real entrepreneur, because there is a lot of self-doubt, right? Like, I think even the very successful entrepreneurs, just because of the nature of entrepreneurship, still doubt themselves very often, right? And it's nice to look back and actually also to have these opportunities to speak about your journey and realize, okay, well, if I was able to do that and build through that and create new categories and take a
Imagine what
brand
else
all
I
over the
could
world, yeah, exactly. Then this small sort of um, wall in front of me, or this sort of failure or whatever we like to call it, isn't that bad. I mean, I can use it as a learning, and yeah, things don't always just go as planned. Because I said, like, an example of that is for instance, we were just before COVID, we were growing at like 50% year on year, which was already amazing. And then COVID hit, and we were like growing at 200% year on year, because people were becoming a lot more conscious about their health. We had alcohol bans in South Africa. We like literally could not produce fast enough, and we were shipping containers all over the world. Our business was shooting the lights out, but that was from a microeconomic point of view. So our business was performing well. What we didn't foresee was obviously the macroeconomic impact of COVID on the world, right? And at that point, our biggest investor was AB InBev, and they obviously lost massive amount of sales all around the world. They had logistical issues.
Sorry, you just casually run past AB InBev. How the hell did you secure them as?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's quite an amazing story too. So I'll get back to sort of the challenge of COVID. But if my first interaction with AB InBev was actually quite cool, and it shows you how these things sometimes don't always go the way you foresee them, and that every single introduction can be an opportunity. So I actually received a business card from a friend of mine about a year and a half before I even met the guys from AB InBev. So I was also speaking to the guys in New York. So they had started a growth and innovation arm called ZX Ventures, which they invested $1 billion into to find the future of beverages. Right. So the friend of mine said, well, Johannes, it looks like you're building the future of beverages, so you must speak to these guys. But at that point, I was like, when am I going to New York? I'm super busy. I'm scaling. I'm building my business. I'll see you in the future when I get there. And then by chance, my wife had to do a conference in New York the next year, and she decided to buy me a plane ticket there for Valentine's Day to come visit her. And I was like, okay, cool. Where's that? Like, that's amazing. Best wife ever. Definitely. We had a great time. And then I decided, well, let's take the opportunity. Let me go meet with them. So I called the guys, send them sort of what we're building. And yeah, that was the first interaction, was just completely by chance. Like, one business card that was held in my sort of cupboard for over a year collecting dust ended up becoming sort of the initial introduction to our largest investor. And then that process of, from sort of initially speaking to them investing, was probably about a 12 months process of like getting to know each other. So really sort of learning about their business, them learning about my business, me meeting more and more people in their organization from London to South Africa to New York. So I was constantly flying between the three cities. And I think what ended up clinching the deal, and I think this is what I told you about earlier, was I I'd been living in Portugal. I did a talk at the UK soft drink conference the week earlier, and the guys were there from ZX Ventures, and they saw my talk, and my talk was about the future of alcohol-free adult drinks, which went really well. And then my wife and I, just before coming back to South Africa, decided to take a little trip to Greece to because it's been a intensive time. And I got a call, sort of luckily towards the end of my trip, that said, "Well, as the final sort of opportunity, we've secured a slot for you to speak directly to the CEO of AB InBev and the 7 zone president. So that means it's the CEO of every continent, right? So it's a
They all
C-
happen to be there at the
they
same time.
all they are there, so like doing a conference, and they would like to hear about this guy that's talking about the future of alcohol-free drinks, because obviously that could be something that is either an opportunity or a threat to them, because they're the biggest alcohol company in the world. So they asked if I can be there in 24 hours. I was like, had a quick look at my phone. I was like, actually, if I leave on a ferry in the next hour, I can get to New York the next morning to be able to do this talk. And luckily, I had this talk from the soft drink conference. So I could just go and like
Recycle it.
recycle that
But
talk.
the logistics, you actually need to get there in time.
Still need to get there in time. And obviously, jet lag and like flying through the night. But it ended up, I believe, going really well, because we the next day we secured the investment from ABMBev. And yeah, I think without that at that time, because this is 20 at the end of 2019, the business wouldn't have been able to survive, right? Because just after that, as I was saying now, COVID hit, and it's almost as if it didn't matter how well you performed as a business, if your there was just a complete freeze on investment, right? So obviously,
This is confidence fell apart. There's
exactly. So
too
like,
much uncertainty and
yeah, to the point where they actually ended up closing down ZX Ventures. So they ended up actually getting a new CEO. Somebody had to take the blood, like the I don't know, the brunt of COVID's reporting, and so they got a new CEO, and it was just focused on their core brands, which makes complete sense to me from a business perspective. Obviously, I was looking at it at that time from my perspective, but over time, you start realizing it was the right decision. It's just bad timing for us. So when we needed to double down, and our plan was to launch the Duchess as a full non-alcoholic drink portfolio of not just gin and tonic, but wines and ready-to-drink cocktails in America, they were basically put a freeze on investment. So it was quite I think, a tough sort of situation for us, and we luckily ended up being able to change our strategy. We pivoted from um, doubling up on production and focusing on America and scaling to saying, okay, cool, how do we do a path to profitability on our core markets? We got RMB Bank to invest, so like substantial amount of money into the business, and yeah, we were able to survive it through COVID then, right? And then
weather the
eventually,
storm, but not having done the scaling that you would have liked and
exactly,
expansion of the brand. And
totally. So I believe, especially that 0 to 1 always kind of means that you need to already have, one is when you have momentum and traction in your core market. So we use Cape Town or South Africa as an incubation phase. So we it's possible for us to test products and brands and produce and have a business in South Africa for a fraction of the price that you would um, have do the same sort of proof of concept in a place like America. So we use that as an advantage. We're like, cool, we've already sold 2-3 million units. Now let's, like, we've tweaked, we've perfected and everything. And then, and we've done all of that for less than it would take us to operate for 6 months in America. So, but now we've got a refined product that we can launch there. So I would have loved to give it that opportunity, but maybe it still does, because we sold the Duchess to an incredible operator in South Africa now that have global ambitions with the brand. And like I said earlier, for me, it's actually, whether I'm part of that or not, as for me, it's very
It's your
important.
baby.
If the brand continues to live on, it's also it's personally it's validating, but it also is good for my career, as a sense, because the bigger the brand becomes, if I was the founder of that brand, it still reflects good on me.
Yeah. So I know after that, so I don't want to just go through a complete biography of all the businesses you've done and take you through all the unnecessary trauma of every instance. But I know that from there, so went from alcoholic, Brana's Draft, which is a brandy and coke on tap, to non-alcoholic, and actually creating something in that space internationally that just wasn't there, non-alcoholic adult drink. And how many other businesses have actually stood on the shoulders of the giants that you turn out to have been in that space.
Mm.
And then I know you went and started a brand, Dope, which is CBD for certain areas in the world, and then in other areas with some THC, which becomes a non-alcoholic adult beverage,
Yes,
but with some health benefits and potentially a little bit of a buzz in those places where it'd be allowed.
definitely. I think in a way, this is also interesting. Is I was able to live out my dream of launching a product in America through Dope. Then, so Dope was initially part of the Duchess venture studio or drink studio. We saw ourselves even then as a platform to create beverages and brands, right? So the Duchess was the platform, and we already had our sales and distribution. We had our production, everything set up. And the one thing I was worried about, sort of as CEO of that company, was that alcohol-free drinks were the biggest demographic of growth was young people, right? So it was people that,
They didn't grow up
yeah, they didn't
with
grow
the
up
same culture of
in,
pub culture and whatever else. They're sitting on their phones.
exactly. It's a whole different generation, and I spoke about that a lot actually in at the UK Soft Drink Conference, where we said, well, imagine you had smartphones and social media when we were growing up, and and there's a photo of you being like drunk in the bar, and now it's online. It's a whole different thing. So they're a lot more aware about themselves as a personal brand because they can be photographed. And then the other part, I think,
And the internet doesn't forget.
internet doesn't forget. And the other part, I think, we're always quite hard on the young generation, but it's more competitive now than it's ever been, right? So I think there's more understanding that you need to hustle to be able to make it work than it's ever been. So I think there's also an understanding that if you go out and you drink too much alcohol, you're going to struggle the next day. You're not going to be as competitive, right? So, and I think all these things are actually the reason why young people are drinking less. And you can go and look at the stats. It's actually quite drastic how much less they're drinking. And so for that, we wanted to create a brand that they can identify with. The Duchess is something that's more of a regal, like I think
Botanicals.
botanicals. It almost, and it's also a non-alcoholic version of an alcoholic drink, right? So we said a generation where they never drank alcohol, or they don't want to drink alcohol, want something completely new. They don't want something that's just a non-alcoholic offering, like a non-alcoholic beer or a non-alcoholic gin and tonic. So we had this brief, and at that point, I met the co-founder of Dope Drinks, Andrew Davenport, and we started hanging out. And he asked me what I was working on, and I kind of posed him um, this challenge or this brief, and I said, like, this is what I really want to do. We need to come up with a brand that resonates with young consumers around the world, and I'd been spending a lot of time in New York with the deal with AB InBev, and I said, well, there's something happening in cannabis. Cannabis and beverages is a thing in America, right? And this is early days. Just Recess had just launched. I saw yesterday Recess, a brand that launched exactly the same time as us, just did a Series A funding round of $30 million. So it's still pumping this category. And he basically came up with this amazing brand called Dope. And like you said, it's CBD drinks in South Africa, but the idea was always that it would come into its own in the American market, where we could include microdose cannabis. So it's not something that's going to get you super high. The idea is that it's got a similar buzz to like drinking one beer and one dope would actually be the same, but with dope, you don't have the negative effects of a hangover. There's no hangover the next day, right?
Yeah.
So,
And for you to really get stoned, you'd have to be,
you have to drink quite a few of them.
yeah,
So
you have to be funneling.
yeah, exactly. It's similar to if you want to get drunk, you'd have to drink quite a few beers, right? Like the same thing with dope. So it is really so that really grabbed our attention, and we started building the brand also from 2019. Again, COVID was an interesting one because we generally want to incubate a brand for about 12 months and then take it to the biggest markets in the world. COVID
And you
extend.
suddenly have this thing where, what's this market?
I can't take it. Yeah, exactly. We can't really take
You
it.
can't use it as a proper measure of what normal non-wartime
No,
economies do.
what's cool about that COVID time is it really got us to innovate, right? So we just launched, we produced our first batch of dope, and we couldn't sell it anywhere because we couldn't send sales reps to the stores. We produced in November 2019. March it was COVID, right? So we had a few stores.
Locked
We
down and
really
you've got
couldn't.
the stock standing.
No buyer wants to speak to you or anything. So we actually came up with something quite innovative in that space. So don't know if you remember, but they even closed down restaurants on Uber Eats. You couldn't like order food on Uber Eats because thought it could be contaminated. But Uber Eats was still up. So we're like, well, why don't we do um what like
Leverage their distribution network.
exactly? Why don't we do a dark stores where you can get dope to your door instantly? So because we were technically water and a drink, we were allowed to operate. So we had our offices, and then we had dark locations all around Cape Town, and you could order. We were the only store on Uber Eats, so it was like booming. Like we were literally the only store. We came up. We made like what looked like a corner store design, but it was like it's all just a dark store. Dark store is obviously like a dark kitchen where it's not you don't have an actual storefront. Everything's just delivered on demand on Uber Eats. And yeah, that was actually how we were able to still get meaningful distribution with dope in the early days. So all of these things, sometimes when you get limitations or restrictions, you actually innovate even better. We ended up continuing with dope, growing it, getting more and more partners, and then eventually in 2023, we saw the market was right in America because the laws had changed that you were allowed to sell hemp derived beverages in liquor stores. So we could finally stand next to a beer or a hard seltzer on shelf. And we decided it's time to launch. And yeah, with very minimal capital, we set up production in Minnesota, who's the most open to sort of the, hemp derived beverages, and within 6 months we expanded to 6 states. So we had Texas, like California. We went massive in California. We actually Launched over 500 locations in California with BevMo and GoPuff. GoPuff then again worked on our same model of direct delivery to your door, which is amazing. It's similar to Uber Eats. Um, and yeah, we were able to learn a lot in a short amount of time with launching Dope in America, and it fulfilled that dream for me because like I was able to see my product on shelf in America, and I was able to see a lot of America because I had to like go there
Travel
to
around to
produce
places.
and spent a lot of time in LA where we built the brand, and yeah, so I think all in all that was a really positive experience for me as an entrepreneur to build.
It's a continuation of the journey and building and
Exactly.
expanding your horizons. And
Exactly. And I think there's still a lot of opportunity for Dope over the next few years. I think, again, for me, my superpower is at 0 to 1, right? So at the moment, we're looking for the right partner in America to take it to the next level. Because if you're not there and you don't have enough capital or infrastructure in America, then it can be a very harsh and tough place. Like you have to,
understand it's a big country.
it's a big country. Like every state is a country basically, and with especially with our category of cannabis beverages, regulations changing all the time makes it quite difficult to operate. So, but yeah, it's growing at a massive pace. Like I said, Recess just got $30 million. I know other brands like Breeze is just raised $20 million. So I think this could be a $1 billion category, like literally within the next few years,
I tend to agree with you.
if you can navigate that space, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's about 1% of the alcohol market in the US or something, or like
Yeah.
yeah. So
No, I don't think it takes that much of a stretch of the imagination to see where that industry can grow to. And I think
mm,
I'm quite excited to see what Dope does. And I understand that, like you say, there's a lot of regulatory changes, and that means that you need the footwork on the ground there, and you need the right kind of partners to make sure you can take it to the next level. I look forward to that chapter.
correct.
Also know, sorry, I'm just slightly aware of time. Also know that you've started something in the golf space
Yes, yeah. So
more
we
recently.
yeah, sorry, yeah. I'm actually just talking about all my ideas and businesses. Feels like I'm speaking about like ex-lovers here, or my children. Let's rather call it my children. It's my
Fair
children.
enough.
So yes, so recently started a business called Get Lucky Golf. Our first product is a hole-in-one challenge that we partner with leading golf courses around the country in South Africa. And how it works, in short, is we give amateur golfers the opportunity to win up to R1 million um, for one lucky shot. So if you,
And so you typically take like a 3 par hole and say this particular one.
yes, yeah. So we would basically, we've got a partnership with the club. We choose a signature par 3, which is the short hole on a golf course. And we set up 2 cameras, one at the tee box and one at the green, to verify if it's a hole in one. And then there's a board that explains how it works. So you can enter anything from 50 Rand to 1,000 Rand.
And you just sort of snap scan it, so the QR code
Exactly.
go
It's a
onto the
QR
slide.
code. You add in your details in your Apple Pay or SnapScan or Zapper, whatever. So we make it super easy. And yeah, over the first 6 months that we've launched, we've gotten over 5,000 entries. And yeah, we've just signed some really great partnerships that I'll be able to speak about soon. We did sign up also, this is quite cool. I don't know if you guys, if you know Shanky's Whip.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Shanky Soup's like an Irish
it's a
flavored whiskey. It tastes like a
Irish
creme
whiskey.
brulee.
Exactly. So they're actually now the official shot partner of Get Lucky Golf. So every
Oh,
entrant
cool.
gets a Shanky's
Congratulations.
Whip. So they've sponsored us for 600 golf days over the next 12 months, or 800 golf days. So over 2,000 bottles of Shankies are going to be poured at golf activations. But yeah, what I liked about it was, I think from an entrepreneurial journey, you also have to start learning about refining your business model, right? So
Get rid of the unnecessary stuff.
you get rid of like the a lot of the risks, right? Like so at some point after doing the Duchess and taking it to 6 countries around the world, I did a calculation and it was like, oh, I basically moved 4 million kilograms of this product around the world. No wonder I'm tired, right? Like, so it's something where I said, well, if I do a next business idea, I don't want it to have weight. It must be something that doesn't have a
You
physical
need
product.
you need strategic partnerships that help carry the weight so that you can.
Yeah, but it's not a physical product at all. So it's an entertainment product actually, and it's something where I want it to be, where I work with people more outside, and I work more with people. So it's like now the difference is where I was spending most of my time inside a shopping mall. Now I'm spending it on a golf course,
It's
right?
not
So
an FMCG that you're moving.
it's
It's
yes,
speaking to the owners of the golf course. It's being in the spaces, traveling
exactly.
around.
Exactly, and doing promotions and all kinds of things. So it's a really exciting new business that we've launched, and
So I've heard you previously speak about founders fatigue. Was it?
yes.
So as an entrepreneurial founder, like, do you find that this new way, because it sounds like you're trying to find ways of hedging the pain of being a founder. Do you find that you've
Yeah, I don't think there's really a way
completely mitigated?
to
But
completely get away from it. So it's important to be able to recognize it. I mean, I've gone through phases in my journey where I've completely burnt out, right? Like, so it's and it's difficult as a mostly it's because founders have to wear all these different masks. You have to be a certain person to your investor, a certain person to your customer, a certain person even to your family, because you're like building this and you almost have to be like
it's-
overly optimistic about everything. And I think then when things don't work out, it like hits extra hard, because then the facade kind of breaks away, and then
because you weren't really on solid footing because you had to pretend to some extent.
totally, yeah, there's always a bit of a fake it till you make it, especially with this early stage businesses. And that can be really tough. So interestingly enough, I also like started a business or a consultancy called Entrepreneur Coach. So Entrepreneur Coach, you can check it out on www.entrepreneurcoach.co.za. But what I speak about there is a lot about entrepreneurs needing a sort of a bounce board, which is a blend between, I would say, a mentor, um, a coach, and a consultant, right?
And
So,
perhaps a mental health professional.
and yeah, which I'm definitely not, but I can tell you, like, I've been through a lot, like I've experienced a lot of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, and what I'm trying to do now is offer a platform where entrepreneurs that are either starting out or they're in a stage where they're scaling up their businesses, because there's always like some sort of intensity that comes with entrepreneurship, and I think that's why it's a very specific breed of people that do it. Um, to have like a bit of a support framework for them. So it's actually something that I wish existed when I was going through it, and I was at points of burnout or entrepreneurship fatigue and so forth. So now I offer one-on-one sessions with entrepreneurs to yeah, either help them grow their businesses or actually just help them
And
like
to be a
s-
soundboard or
maintain their own like yeah, like what do you call it, sanity.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
Was it?
'cause
I mean,
you can feel like you're going crazy as an entrepreneur.
yeah, there are a lot of cliches running around work-life balance, and yeah, also people saying no, there is no such thing. Don't worry about it. Just do what you have to do, and so on. But what have you learned for yourself? Like, what helps? Obviously, nothing is going to be perfect, like you said. No matter how many times you've done this, it's always going to be stressful. There's always going to be moments
Mm.
of anxiety and doubt. But what do you find best helps? Obviously, family life is something important, and I know you've got a young son, and
Mm.
those are things that
Definitely.
sort of help anchor you. But other practices that you find for yourself to be helpful, I
Yeah,
suppose also learning how to say no.
yes, exactly. I mean, you can take on too much, and sometimes it is difficult. But I think has always drawn me to entrepreneurship um, is the fact that at least you are in charge of your own time, and you are in charge of like the outcome, right? So I think work-life balance is something that's applied almost more to like an employee, right? Because they have to work this long and then they've got life that long. So, or they've got their family and everything, and they don't want it to blend. Where as an entrepreneur, the ideas
It
and
almost has to
it
blend.
almost has to blend because you actually become the brand in a sense. Like if you're all in, you become the brand. You're the founder of this product. So then it's important. The most important thing is to choose the right type of business. So something that actually fits the lifestyle that you want to live.
So I see.
So
This is
that's
why
where
you
the
ended up in
golf.
golf.
This is where the golf business
It's
comes
like,
from. Right?
I gotta get out there. A little bit of work. Let me just quickly do a round so the guys can see I play.
Totally, exactly. So like we do learn over time, and I think it's. But even with the beverage businesses, I always found that again gave me the opportunity to travel the world and see a lot of interesting things and learn a lot, right? So there's always something I think as an entrepreneur where I wouldn't call it's work-life balance, but it's almost like more life design, which I would say. Like so it's make sure that you do your life design and then somehow in that life design you have to figure out a way to make money or build value or something like that. But I wouldn't try and see it as separate and like try and balance the two out because then you'll almost always fail,
Yeah.
right? Like it's so I think it's nice to integrate the two. But yeah, and then you add on top of that having a family and then becomes quite yeah can still become tough, right? So it is an amazing experience being a parent, but you have to then change that life design because now you've got different priorities.
Yeah. I always find it interesting. I mean, they're the old stories about the philosophy teacher who says, I've got all of the sand and all of these stones, and these stones, family and whatever else. And if you put the sand in first, then you won't get the big stones, and you have to put the big stones in first, and then the smaller stones. That whole story.
Yeah.
And so I find that it's important to figure out some anchors in your life.
Mm.
For instance, you're saying family as a priority.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you don't want your son to get to 13 and congratulations, daddy has been able to afford for you to go to the best schools in the world, but you barely know who he is.
Exactly.
Right? You want to be part of his life, and you want to experience those things. You want to maintain your health.
Mm.
Obviously, with a lot of stress, there are always dangers that there are ways of trying to deal with stress that are very unhealthy.
Mm.
One of the things that I find the most powerful thing that I do, in terms of all the possible doing yoga and this and that and so on, is if you can wake up in the morning and you take the first half an hour for yourself to not pick up the phone,
Mm.
not basically not do anything else, but just be by yourself. You can do the sort of journaling, just a little bit of writing, a little bit of thinking, prayer, meditation, whatever it is that you do, but just to say, okay, there's a little start.
Yes.
And have that nice and early in the day, because it feels like that helps you to prioritize exactly what you're saying. Like you're designing this life, but when you wake up in the morning, it's easy enough to just keep going with whatever you're busy with the previous night without having that moment of reassessment
and presence, right?
and presence, realigning yourself with the present moment and realizing this is real life. I'm not just building story, I'm actually living this.
Exactly. No, I think that's it. That's incredible because every single day, the bigger the projects you're working on, and that includes like having a child, having a family, having a wife, friends, businesses, projects. Every day you're making a lot of decisions, right? And each of those decisions actually end up taking you in a different direction. So if you are not making those decisions from a foundation of being present and aligned to like at least yourself, right? Like I'm not even talking about like vision and goals and stuff, but like do you talk to yourself? Do you actually like check in with yourself? Do you take that time? I think that's a brilliant way of doing it, and it's something I should do more of. I think everybody, like you say, can have their own strategy around it, but it's a great thing to be able to do that first thing in the morning.
Yeah, just sort of reassess and like you said, to just make sure that you're in the present, like through a little bit of breath and so on. You were saying now about a business, when you design it and what ultimately happens. I recall a guy, I think it was an American or Canadian guy, I forget, but I met him in Taiwan, and he had built quite a massive business in China, and eventually the guys turned on him because someone else had to have some ownership in the business there. And then one day he arrived at the office and the police were waiting, and they like opened the safe. Like, where's the money? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But they just pushed him out of the business. They were like, okay, goodbye. But he once told me that be careful while you're starting the business, because it's a little Frankenstein. It's not quite Frankenstein, but it's a monster of some kind.
Yeah.
And you're busy feeding it. And at some point, that monster becomes big enough, and then it's going to rule you. And you want to make sure that monster is, like, you're willing to be ruled by that monster.
Definitely, I agree.
So you
And
design it with yourself in mind, as you said.
and especially if you're building bigger businesses, that you have more and more partners, and it's not just you, it's actually your investors, and everyone has their own desired outcomes, right? So it becomes quite a juggling act to make sure that when you I think the biggest shock as an entrepreneur is when you wake up one morning and you realize, oh my goodness, I'm actually working for these people. I'm actually I became an entrepreneur because I wanted to build my own things and have what do you call it, sort of sovereignty, and be able to
Sovereignty no more.
sovereignty no more, exactly. And then when I realized that, I was like, okay, cool, well, actually, maybe then this is not the type of business or design of
Time
business
for integration.
that I want to do, right? So it's time for either to build a new type of business that doesn't require as much capital, or it's changing up just the structure of what I'm doing. But yeah, it's good to that, and those instances can come quicker, so that if you're more present and you're actually a little bit more, I think,
Keep aware.
you keep aware, and you're what do you call it? You're actually truthful to yourself. You're actually you're not lying to yourself also.
Yeah, sort of radical self-transparency.
When you start believing
Your own bullshit.
your own bullshit, or the masks, you have to wear all these masks, and you start realizing, I'm actually believing this story.
Drinking my own Kool-Aid, yeah.
Drinking my own Kool-Aid, right? And it's not aligned to what I actually want, then it can come as quite a big shock.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that in the
So
journey.
And so that's a good argument for making your mindfulness practice, self-awareness, being in the present. That really has to be a priority. Otherwise, you start to deviate, and eventually you create it's like an elastic, and you pull it far away enough that by the time it lets go, then it's just going to hurt so much more.
Yeah, and maybe I would even take it a bit further and be maybe give yourself a bit of a challenge and say, what truth bomb can I hit today? Okay, what am I gonna I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say it out loud. This is actually something that
I'm gonna put a taboo on the table for myself.
Exactly. Just be like, this is actually what's been going on, and I see it. I don't have to change it today, but I need to be aware of it, because if it goes on for too long, then it can become
the layers of levels of the lie.
That's also that's the foundation of the founder's fatigue, because it actually this lie chips away from you, or the lie. I wouldn't say it's a lie. It's more of not living in flow, or in being aligned with your own truth or vision for yourself. And it was also the other thing I always tell myself is if it wasn't for me, this was my idea, I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the creator. If it wasn't for me, none of this would exist. So I can't blame other people for this. Like, this is all me. So if I want to change it, I need to take responsibility for it. Like, what can I take responsibility for
mean,
today,
That
right?
sounds like some great entrepreneurial wisdom, but I think it also sounds like some great general life wisdom. To accept that responsibility that you're actually busy creating whatever the circumstance are that you find yourself in, and by being radically truthful to yourself,
Yeah.
you have some kind of chance of actually finding your way through.
Yeah, there's a practice of like when somebody irritates you, or you've got some sort of charge with somebody, right? There's a process that I like to use is to say, what about this person irritates me so much, and what of that can I take on responsibility for myself? So what in them like makes me realize something that I'm doing, right? And once you take, because this is just
a
your
reflection.
it's just your reflection of that person. There's something in them that basically reminds them of something that you're doing or something you're not doing, or like a disalignment, right? So and then taking back that responsibility from that, number one, changes your charge towards that person, which can end up in conflict for no reason, and it actually gives you an opportunity to move past it in your own world.
I think that's beautifully wise. And I think we're sort of at the end of this, but I really do want to bring you back. And there's some stories that we didn't touch on and that I really do want to touch on.
Yeah.
But I know that some of them have time locks on for the moment. And but I do want to thank you, Big Joe. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. I love yeah, it's nice to just go on that journey again, and I would recommend that too to anybody that sometimes feels like they're a bit lost, or they're not on aligned with their path. Is do a little podcast. Come do a podcast with Danie. It actually helps a lot.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Big Joe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.